Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, presented by the Business Courier. Do we have it all wrong when it comes to fixing the Brent Spence Bridge? Maybe there's a better way. You may know the funny TV commercials, but what do you really know about Furniture Fair? A look inside the business. And how Loveland is increasing its hip factor thanks to vinyl. U.S. Bank Business Watch is next. Good morning and welcome to U.S. Bank Business Watch. I'm Peg Rasconi. On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, we've been looking at the Brent Spence Bridge project all wrong. The Business Courier explored the question, is it time for a new idea for the Brent Spence Bridge? The Courier looked at financial details and found the $2.6 billion plan to replace the bridge is actually an 8-mile highway widening and interchange replacement plan. Fixing the functionally obsolete bridge and building a new one to its immediate west would actually cost about $700 million. The Ohio Department of Transportation and the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet are digging into the details, and their plan for cost savings is due on Tuesday. The result could lead to a smaller, cheaper project, one that could be financed with less expensive tolls and finally get on the road. Business Courier reporter Chris Wetterick reported this story and joins editor Rob Dawmeyer in the studio to talk about if there really is a better way to get that bridge done. Guys.
Thanks very much, Peg, and Chris, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously a lot of talk, not a lot of action on the Brent Spence, but any kind of action that did happen seemed to happen on the Kentucky side of the river this year. What went on in Frankfort during the most recent session for the legislation down there?
Well, what they need to do in Kentucky, they want to pay for this bridge by having a private company come in and build it and then basically pay them back via tolls. That's probably an oversimplification of the process, but that's basically what they need to do. The Kentucky House passed that legislation. The Kentucky Senate did not, and so that's where the failure was down in Frankfort this year. They didn't really pass it because necessarily because of tolls, but because of the potential for tolls, but because there were some problems with cities and counties in Kentucky being on board with the legislation. They wanted to be able to do public-private partnerships as they would do with this bridge, and that aspect of the legislation wasn't in there. So it was just not a priority in the closing days of the legislative session last week in Frankfurt.
So the two state departments of transportation that are involved, obviously Ohio and Kentucky, what's been their role? What are they doing right now?
Well, they're taking a deep dive into the construction costs of the project. You got to remember, this is almost an 8-mile project, not just replacing the bridge or not just fixing the current bridge and putting another one right next to it, but doing 8 miles of highway reconstruction and widening, as well as doing some interchange work at each aspect of the project. So they're taking a look at that. They're saying, okay, what do we need? What do we don't need? What do we not need? We're not sure kind of where they're going to come out on that.
So something that I think is really the reason you wrote the story, and I think is great about the story, is this idea that everybody needs to remember that this $2.6 billion project isn't just about the bridge. It's almost 8 miles of freeway. What are some of the people that say those 8 miles have to be redone as well? What's their argument? Why can't we just focus on the bridge?
Well, they argue that there's too much congestion on the bridge, and that will, if you only do a bridge project, that won't solve the congestion problems leading up to it. The critics of that say basically that the traffic numbers that ODOT and the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments have put out, they show that traffic isn't really increasing on the bridge and hasn't increased. In fact, it's decreased depending on how you look at it. So they feel that the project is overblown, and so that's what the Departments of Transportation are looking at. You've kind of had a degree of looking at that, like the Kentucky transportation officials, when this first came up in January, they kind of said, well, we don't really think there's a lot to cut. We're going to do what the governors say, but we don't think there's a lot that we should take out. Recently, though, the folks in Ohio have said, well, maybe the low-hanging fruit here is to take out one of the lane expansions and see if that reduces the cost. So it's going to be interesting this week
Yeah.
or next week to see what they actually say.
And we'll keep our eyes on that. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks.
And back to you.
All right, thanks, Rob. And Chris, keep us posted. Well, there may soon be another way to get across the river. Red bikes are expanding. Covington Mayor Sherry Caron announced the city has received donations that will fund 5 to 6 bike sharing stations. Red Bike, which launched in September, currently operates about 30 stations in Cincinnati, northern Kentucky. Cities have been fundraising to bring the service and the people who use the bikes across the river.
Like we're going to be able to expand into Covington this summer, into Newport and Bellevue, and we're also going to have a bunch more stations we'll be able to put into the Cincinnati area as well.
And Barron says his team will help Covington determine determine the best locations for each $50,000 station. What started as a couple's idea to help a single church reach ailing parishioners has turned into a startup company with customers in more than 40 states. Now StreamSpot, which enables simple live and on-demand streaming from houses of worship and live events, has closed a round of seed funding. StreamSpot is a member of the inaugural class at Ocean, the faith-based accelerator backed by Crossroads Church. Cincy Tech and Kinetic Ventures co-led the financing with participation from Ocean Capital, the investing arm of Ocean.
This round of funding is going to allow us to build the team to take StreamSpot to the next level. Laura and I have taken this as far as we can. We bootstrapped it, had enormous success. However, we know that in order to continue to provide innovative features and gain market share, we need to bring on a team to help us do that.
StreamSpot allows churches to live stream their services to any internet-connected device without the need for a crew of people or expensive equipment. Its automation software is patent pending. Merv Grayson's 5-decade career as one of Cincinnati's best-known bankers will come to an end this year. Grayson retired from his CEO role at Central Bank in early March, but won't officially step away from day-to-day duties until December 31st. Grayson spent nearly 40 years running Greater Cincinnati banks, including Central, Covington Trust, Huntington National, People's Bank of Northern Kentucky, and Central Bank's Northern Kentucky operation.
Whatever I do next, it's not going to be in banking. I think 52 years is long enough, and so if I do something, it'll be more involved in the community and trying to improve the environment and world my grandkids and kids live in.
Grayson grew up in Park Hills and says the greatest satisfaction of his career is seeing Northern Kentucky's growth and transformation. Like Grader's and opening day, Furniture Fair is a Cincinnati institution. Except for its memorable commercials, the business is pretty low-key. Bill Daniels, president of Furniture Fair, likes it that way. His father founded the store in 1963. He and his 2 brothers are now owners, and he says the family business will go on.
We expanded our warehouse 10 years ago for growth, completed the task, and a few years later the recession hit, and we pulled in our reins to make sure that we had the staying power. Well, we see an uptick in business, and we see opportunities for us, not just in Cincinnati, but in the cities surrounding us.
With 11 stores and 300 local full-time employees, Furniture Fair ranks as the 20th largest retailer based in Greater Cincinnati. There's a new restaurant open at the Rookwood Exchange in Norwood. Bravo opened a new store on Thursday. It's the 3rd local location for the casual Italian restaurant.
Yes, we open the doors every day, open the doors like our house. We bring people in, we make them feel welcome, and we give them top quality service and great food. We follow the authentic Italian methods to be able to produce the food that we serve to our guests.
Chef Hernandez is serving up grilled steaks, chops, and fresh seafood, as well as flatbreads, pizzas, and salads. For a closer look at the menu and the restaurant's decor, you can visit the Business Courier website. There's a new record store in Loveland, and I didn't misspeak there, record store in Loveland. Terry Cole opened the store called the Plaid Room in a neighborhood where most residents can afford the flashiest new music gadgets. But he says sales numbers show vinyl is back.
I think people like holding something in their hand. You get a big piece of art. I think people like the process of playing a record. I think people like the sound of records. I won't say it's better or worse. It's just different. It's a different sound. I think it says something that it's a technology that was almost gone, and this has come back, and 15, 16-year-old kids are buying records when they have plenty of choices.
According to industry reports, 57% of vinyl was sold at independent record stores in 2014, and vinyl sales overall grew nearly 52% from 2013 to 2014. Vinyl isn't the only thing that can make us feel nostalgic. Baseball seems to do that too. As Cincinnati begins to celebrate our All-Star year, the Business Courier is asking well-known Cincinnatians to talk about their love and memories of the game. It's called Everyone Has a Baseball Story. First up is Reds owner Bob Castellini, who has fond memories of visiting Crosley Field with his dad, who died when Bob was in 5th grade. He said Crosley Field was a happening place, just as Great American Ballpark is today, but it was a different happening. Whenever I smell cigar smoke, it reminds me of Crosley Field. Well, up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, lots of interest this week online and stories involving the construction industry. We'll tell you what's up. And what's next for Jeff Ruby? He's about to take the Music City by storm. Some news now that's getting a lot of attention on the Business Courier website and social media sites. Reese Campbell, one of the largest general contractors and construction managers in Greater Cincinnati, is closing its doors at the end of April. Pete Cronus has been the president of the Laughlin-based company since 1982. His father started the company. Cronus said several factors weighed into his decision, including the lack of family members to run it or a buyer interested in taking it over. A local development company is scheduled to break ground this June on a nearly $6 million grocery-anchored shopping center in Independence. Tobin, a Crescent Springs-based commercial real estate development and construction company, will build the neighborhood retail center in the center of Independence's commercial district. So far, the development includes an Aldi grocery store and a Dollar Tree store. Another local city has signed on to the campaign to bring daily Amtrak service from Cincinnati to Chicago. The Norwood City Council passed a resolution last week asking the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments to fund a feasibility study of establishing higher speed rail between Cincinnati and Chicago. Norwood joins Hamilton County, the city of Hamilton, and the city of Wyoming in backing that campaign. Precinct owner Jeff Ruby says his new steakhouse in Nashville, Tennessee is going to set itself apart from his other restaurants. For one, there will be a 12-foot high circular stage featured in the dining room with its own elevator. Ruby has been collecting country music memorabilia for 2 years for this restaurant's opening. He even has a Johnny Cash guitar. The restaurant is expected to open in late 2015. In this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360, a customer spotlight. Furno is a leading provider of devices serving the mortuary and emergency medical services industry. The company has 700 employees worldwide, exports to over 150 countries, and is based in Wilmington. CEO Joe Borgraf is with Business Courier editor Rob Dawnmeyer in the studio. Joe and Rob.
Thank you very much. And Joe, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So Peg touched on what you guys do a little bit, but give our viewers a better idea of what Furno does.
Rob, we're a manufacturer of emergency medical equipment primarily, predominantly for the EMS marketplace in the ambulance.
And so what do you do for them? What specifically are they coming to you to get?
Right. About 10 years ago, we got pulled away from our marketplace and really helped the U.S. Military in their special operations. We then came back a couple years ago and focused back on our commercial marketplace. And that really revolves around bringing out a whole new suite of products for the ambulance. The primary product that we're currently working on is the INX. It's a new revolutionary product to help patients and medics do their job safer and be safer in the ambulance.
So what is that? What does that look like?
It's a new cot that really has a number of capabilities that haven't previously existed in the marketplace before. So to go over a Jersey barrier between a northbound and southbound lane, make it easier on the medics to lift a patient over. Going up an escalator at a mall in the center of it, to put a patient into a nice position so that they can breathe easier for COPD and the like. So there's both patient benefits and medic benefits with the product.
So when somebody sees an EMT or an ambulance or something, they look essentially the same as they have forever, right? But when you open those doors, how different is what is inside those trucks than 10, 20 years ago? I mean, is it completely different, or are they still relying on sort of the same technology?
Right, right. Well, the technology's been the same really for the last 20 years, and we're really working very aggressively on completely transforming the interior of the ambulance. So it's modular, interchangeable, interoperable, all for the safety of both the medic and the patient.
Why has it stayed the same for so long? You know, I liken it to sort of, you know, jets. I mean, we're still flying in roughly the same jets we were in the 60s, but why has change been so slow to happen inside ambulances?
Well, fire service is known as an industry that's been 100 years and unimpeded by progress. And hopefully the new generation of medics coming up, they have a different perspective. They'd rather have the equipment work for them versus them having to work the equipment.
Sure. What's last question for you? What's next? What are you specifically thinking about right now for the company?
Definitely, it's about taking that same concept of the IPTS, the Integrated Patient Transport System, with the modularity and everything, international, and we see a global market for that opportunity.
Well, you're in you're exporting to 150 countries so far, so sounds like everything's going really well for you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And back to you, Peg.
All right, thanks, Rob and Joe. And again, that company is Furno. Well, still to come on U.S. Bank Business Watch, you've heard of Manic Monday. How about Mentoring Monday? We'll tell you how business women are uniting next. In this morning's Business Insight, the Cincinnati Business Courier has been holding quarterly events called Biz Women for over 10 years. Last year, the Courier's parent company, American City Business Journals, launched an initiative called Mentoring Monday. Tomorrow at Reception's Banquet Center in Northern Kentucky, almost 200 women will come together to be mentored by 40 of the strongest female business leaders in our region. Joy Lytle manages the Biz Women program for the Business Courier, and Joy's Business Watch producer Kelly Leon in the studio with more. Joy and Kelly.
Thanks, Peg. Joy, thanks for being here.
Thanks.
We love having you in. So 10 years is a long, long time to do this Biz Women program. Why has it been so successful?
You know, the Business Courier started the Biz Women program back in 2004. And we started with 4 quarterly breakfasts focused on 4-part theme of connect, support, learn, and grow. And the Biz Women Cabinet formed shortly thereafter. And this is all to bring the local women's community together. And 10 years later, we are still going stronger than ever.
I hear great things about it. And there are very few business women I know who aren't who haven't attended something over the years.
Yes.
So the Mentoring Monday program, now how does that fit into Biz Women?
Mentoring Monday, it fits perfect with the local Biz Women program we have here. Actually, our corporate office, American City Business Journals, we're owned by, there's 43 markets across the country that are going to be producing this Mentoring Monday event all across the country at the same time.
Oh, awesome.
And it's going to be fantastic, and it ties in great with the theme we already have. It's basically an extension of the Biz Women program we currently have.
So 200 women expected here times 43. I mean, that's a lot of women across the country.
Yeah. You're looking at over 8,000 women that are going to come together to be mentored by over 1,720 mentors.
And talk a little bit about the mentors. Who here locally are some of the folks that will be at the event?
Some of them, if I could have all day, I would tell you all 40 of them.
Sure.
Just to name a few, Jill Meyer with Ross Brown Todd, Candace McGraw with Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport. There's just so many to name. I could go on.
You could go on. Yeah, you'll leave somebody out, so you better not name too many.
It's going to be a great program.
And what are the benefits to the women that attend? What's the feedback that you get in terms of where they take the knowledge that they gain at these events and then how they put it to use?
Well, basically at our program Monday in Cincinnati, we are going to have our keynote speaker is going to talk, and then we are going to have each attendee is going to have the opportunity to spend 7 minutes with 7 different mentors of their choice. So we're hopeful that they'll be able to walk away with some valuable information from these powerful leaders.
So it's really, they set the agenda. It's what, it sounds like it's what you're the speaker, but then it's what I am kind of dealing with or looking for, the questions that I have that I can ask directly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what we're hopeful, that they'll be able to answer and ask these questions and walk away with some valuable information and tidbits of information that will help them throughout their careers.
And this interview is a little bit unfair because you can't take any more people tomorrow. So we can't encourage people to sign up, but we can encourage people to go to the Business Courier website, check out Biz Women, and really get involved in all the events that you do.
Absolutely. Yes,
Mentoring Monday is just an example of one of the many events. So go to the website. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Hope it goes
It'll be
well.
wonderful.
Yeah. Peg, back to you.
All right, great program. Thanks, ladies. And thanks you for joining us this morning for U.S. Bank Business Watch. We'll be back next Sunday and every Sunday morning at 6:30 here on Local 12 and 10 a.m. on the CW. For more business news all week long, you can visit the Business Courier online and sign up for daily emails and follow on Twitter and Facebook. The address is CincinnatiBusinessCourier.com. I'm Peg Rasconi. Have a great Sunday.